and welcome to my presentation about graphic designer Paul Rand. There we go. This is one of his paintings. Being a graphic designer, he did a lot of different kinds of artwork in his life, including photography and also painting. Paul Rand was born in New York. He lived from 1914 to 1996, and his parents were a bit worried about his future and his career. He loved art, but his parents were like, "Oh, but can you make a career out of that, though? Can you make a living?" Well, little did they know he would become one of the most famous graphic designers of all time, and certainly would make a good living for himself. Now, Paul Rand went to several different schools where he would certainly learn artwork. I mean, heaven's sake, School of Design, Art Students League of New York. However, despite this, he would insist on calling himself self-taught, because he would study the works of others and learn from them. And I guess that makes sense why he would want to call himself that. I mean, I guess I can feel similarly. It's like, yes, I'm going to school for design, but in a way, I don't know, through my trial and error, I am doing the learning. I don't know, it's an interesting concept. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around why he says this. That was the really interesting thing I came across while learning about Paul Rand, was just, not only was he, a really good designer, but he had a lot of interesting thoughts, a lot of interesting ideas, and he was kind of like a philosopher of design, in a way. It was very interesting. So Paul Rand is very well known for branding, and what's interesting is that some of the very first branding he ever did was with his own name. So he was actually born as, sorry if I butcher this, Peretz Rosenbaum, which is apparently a very Jewish name. So he changed it to Paul Rand in hopes that it was more, I don't know, what's a word for it? Like, appealing? Not appealing, but not as blatantly Jewish, because he came from a Jewish family, and unfortunately, people are not very nice when you have very different names. Well, he would go on to build a massive portfolio full of lots and lots of projects, such as he would, oh, my little picture's in the way there, I'm sorry. It just says logos in the corner. Let me see. I can move it. That's so cool. Anyways, he would design lots of logos. And these logos, some of them would be in use like not deep into, but like still into the early 2000s, and some are still in use today. I'd have to say that a lot of Paul Rand's work is very, I don't know, Swiss style inspired, very simple, a lot of usage of sans serif fonts and basic colors, and just, yeah, very geometric works as well, is something I think stands out about his style. He also got contracted to work for Steve Jobs. Now, I'm not sure what next is personally, but apparently he designed the logo for that. Something interesting that Paul Rand said, moving my picture again, okay, and this is just an interesting show of Paul Rand's confidence, apparently. Steve Jobs is like, "Hey, yeah, could you get back to me with like some options for design?" And Paul Rand was like, "No, I'm going to give you a design, and you can say yes or no to it." Now, as a designer, I don't think every designer should have that level of confidence. Certainly not. If someone contracts you, you're like, "All right, and here's your logo." And they go, "But I wanted it to be blue." You go, "Nope, I'm the designer. I know best." That just seems a little too cocky for me. However, when you're Paul Rand, and after all of those decades of experience, you probably do know what you're talking about. It's interesting to me that Paul Rand treated design as if it were medicine, like as if there was like one cure for it, like there's one solution. I don't know, really interesting guy. Like I said earlier, still wrapping my mind around some of his ideas. Interesting man. He also worked on book covers, and I really enjoy these. I really enjoy the like torn, glued together paper kind of aesthetic. The ticket one is definitely my favorite. I just think that one is just so clever, really good design, very creative and unique. a lot of his covers kind of have like this very blocky, just very simple colors. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here. Design, but yeah, very interesting, very unique style to him. He also did his posters in a very similar way. But it's very interesting to me to look at these and kind of think like, oh hey, like especially the one on the left, it's like, for a man with decades of experience in design, it still sort of feels like there's, and I don't say this in a mean way, but some sense of amateurity to it. Don't know if that's a word. But what I mean by that is like, hey, I feel like most people could probably make something in that same style. Now, I'm not doing the whole, my child could make that artwork. I'm not doing that, but what I'm saying is, hey, that's really simple and really human. And there's something I really like about that. Again, I really enjoy the cutout paper kind of look to it all. He also wrote several books. Some of them he wrote, he illustrated and his wife wrote. But these books specifically, he wrote just talking about his ideas about design and art. And I would be really interested in checking them out and finding them for myself. Because what a guy with not only really interesting designs, but really interesting thoughts. And speaking of, there are many quotes that he is known for. Some of them being rather famous and like the first ones to pop up when you Google his name and stuff, like design is so simple, that's why it's so complicated, and don't try to be original, just try to be good, and design is the silent ambassador of your brand. Which, all making really good points, especially this last one right here, because, well, he was a big proponent in the whole using design to give your brand an identity kind of thing, which, is really novel, and nowadays we just see that everywhere. Every brand has like such a visual identity to them, and I think that he was a really big proponent in that. Sorry, I'm doubting my words. I'm doubting my vocabulary at the moment. Anyways, but I hope you know what I mean. On the website that's all about Paul Rand, I also came across these quotes that I thought were really cool and important, and I didn't see many people talking about them. So these quotes of his are about the importance of play. I guess the importance of experimentation. I don't know. These really hit for me personally and make me think, hey, I think I really agree with a lot of the things that this guy is saying and a lot of things that this guy is about. So yes. Lastly, before he passed away, he actually asked a graphic designer friend of his, Fred Schaller, to design his grave. I think that's kind of pretty cool that even when he's about to die, he's like, you know what? I at least want my grave to look really cool. Like, so, and you know what? It does. So, thank you. That was my presentation about graphic designer Paul Rand.